you laughing at me clapping?
No, it hurt my ears.
Oh.
You jerk.
Hi, everybody.
Hole for room noise.
Right. Welcome to the Established Facts, episode 229, because we recorded 228 at PopCon.
Are you serious? You're on 229 now?
Yeah.
Good lord.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, it's been a long year to get from like 226 to 229.
Wow.
But it is what it is. And
As far as I'm concerned, it's still March 2020. So.
yeah,
It's true.
that's probably valid. But
I mean, you are the bear. It's hibernation.
Yeah, I've been asleep this last 2 years.
So I'm very happy to be back at Fear the Con after was it 4 years?
Three. No, 4 years. Because they took a gap year and then they had to cancel because of things.
Yeah.
Was it seriously 2018?
2018 is the last.
I know
Fear the
this
Con we had.
because I moved here the year that we had the last one.
That's
And then
amazing.
the next
Non-con?
year, the 2018.
The non-con?
No, I had the con, the actual con, the 2018 con.
No, 2018, because that was the con that I ran.
yeah. 2017 was the non.
Because I went
Yeah.
to 2018, because I came here for the first day, and then I had to go buy houses the second day,
Yeah.
because we were still moving. Then, 2019, we canceled because he couldn't afford it. There were some money issues.
Right.
And then 2020, there it goes, right off the table.
That was a thing.
Yeah, kind of a thing, you know.
There was a slight thing that just happened and may or may not have affected the entire planet. It's fine.
We're talking positive, though, today.
Yes, positive,
So, positive.
positive.
But we're here, and that's really the
Yes,
important
that's
part.
positive.
Is
Hey,
we
who
are
are we?
here.
I was getting there.
We interrupted.
It's true.
Are you going to fact establish?
What?
We're
We're a
gonna.
little early for that.
I'm gonna establish that that's Lance.
Yep.
That's Josh.
Yep.
I'll do this. I'm Adam. Hi.
Yep.
That's Caleb, and that's Zach.
There you go. See, that's new as it is. Adam's over here introducing everybody. But regardless, it is so good to have everybody here. We're doing some video stuff. We're recording with our audio gear. Like, we're podcasting. Yay!
I legitimately
it's like
haven't
it's the first
podcasted in like 5 years.
5 years?
Like, I think the last time I podcasted was with you guys at Gen Con.
See, we're
That might have been the last time I podcasted with them.
Yeah.
there you go.
No,
Or might have been before the year before that.
Okay, so it's kind of a running joke at the moment. For those that have been following the Established Facts and Casting Robot Productions, we of course started the Stable podcast, which is our pro wrestling podcast. And
Because of course you did.
Of course we did. We started doing more of the video element of it. Like, we've got 3 cameras going, as you can see, and Lance, who has some video production experience, volunteered to help us with the stable. The problem is that episode 227 happened in like January or February of the Established Facts, and we've done like 5 stable episodes since then. Because there's been a lot going on in wrestling. I don't want to go into that right now, but
That's not what this podcast.
it's not. So we're here to talk about games, more games.
Hi,
So,
this is my face in
see,
front of the camera.
It's real, but we're working on that so he can, direct from on screen. Anyways, so Zach actually was the one that approached us about whether or not we wanted to record anything.
Well, it's been a tradition, most years when we've done Fear the Con, you guys have recorded a podcast, whether
Yes.
it was at the hotel or on the way home,
Yep.
or
the
before the
car,
con,
yeah.
at the end of the con,
Sometimes on the way to and on the way from.
That is true. That is true. I do remember hearing that. What are you looking forward to? What did you like the most at the con? Nothing.
Yeah.
I'm too tired to let me sleep while I drive.
Talk must sleep.
So I thought this would be a good opportunity to gather, especially since we all kind of knew this particular Fear the Con was going to be lower attended than it has been in years past because of the pandemic and things like that, and also because some people just wouldn't be able to make it. We have had a few people say that they bowed out because they got COVID or they were having family issues they were dealing with, whatever.
They're coming.
Side note there.
Canada.
Congrats to Avital.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know if you
that's
guys
right.
Yep, so anyways.
Well, so here's the thing. A funny story. No. 2
Okay.
years. They've been married 2 years,
Yep, but that was a...
but he finally proposed
Oh.
in Italy. Like he
funny.
wanted to. They've been in
Yeah.
Italy for
But-
Greece and Italy.
But hey,
last
that's
week.
why she's not here today.
That's right.
Okay.
Is because they are currently in Italy
Yes.
being proposed to.
That's-
To my
congrats
knowledge,
Fabulous.
to my knowledge, she's not pregnant.
I'm like, what happened?
There was
I don't think anybody
a...
was saying that, Josh. But
Well, no, I had no idea what was happening. So I'm like, what happened?
That was only because I knew things because I've
No,
Facebook
it's
friends and
it's
stuff.
fine. I get it. I just was real confused for a second. It's
She
okay.
actually joined us at
This
PopCon.
is super
Well,
cool.
I put it up, so-
Okay.
Okay.
So
This
what
is
we-
really on par for a con podcast, though. You have to,
Yes,
you
it
have to
is.
admit
well,
that.
it's on par for any established podcast. Let's be honest.
It's a fun-
Congratulations! What happened?
What happened?
What are you talking about?
Fine.
Listen!
So I asked Josh if they were planning on recording because it was just going to be Josh and Lance here in town instead of like the majority of the other people that typically are on the podcast. And so I asked them, were they actually thinking about recording? He's like, we can. And I'm like, if you do, I've got a couple ideas. And by the way, I'm going to be on your podcast.
That's how most people get on. I'd love to be on a podcast. Okay, sit down.
I was legit. We were just okay. So for context, we were just at wing night. Like Mikey finished up maybe 45 minutes ago, maybe an hour at this
If
point.
that.
I don't know.
Not even,
And they're all getting ready to come do this, and Josh looks at me. He's like, "Hey, you want to be on a podcast?" I'm like, "All right."
Yep.
I just forced my way in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
whatever.
that's my prerogative.
It's a history.
So we could talk about all sorts of things, and one of the things that I started doing a video podcast, and I was.
Do you need a director?
Pardon?
Do you need a director?
No. If you'd like to drive 5 hours to
They
St.
will
Louis,
jump at this ship.
You don't have to be in the same room anymore. Come
Right.
on.
It's surprising.
True, you don't.
but what I've been doing is top 10 lists, and I've been trying to do specifically about board games, and I've gotten really into that. And the St. Louis area has a great board gaming culture. So most of the top 10 podcast lists I've seen, video podcasts, are the same. Top 10 worker placement games, top 10 social deduction games, top 10 games that need a reprint or a reboot. And I decided to go with, top 10 lists that were off kilter. Top 10 games I've played once and never want to play again. Top 10 games I've played once and can't wait to play again, things like that. So I thought, let's try a topic that's a little different from what I've heard you guys do
Okay.
in the past. And I came up with a couple different topics. The first one that came to my mind, and one of the ones that I thought could spark the most discussion at this table among this group, was books that we loved as children, like fiction books, non-RPG, books that we loved as children that would make a great RPG, whether a one-shot or a campaign or something like that. Because I know that we all started getting into storytelling by reading stories.
Yep.
Whether it was forced upon us by our English teachers, or whether it was something we checked out from the library. My mom used to check out Peanuts anthologies for me when I was about 6, when I was too young to understand the
The nuance.
all the adult nuance. Now I get it. Now I 100% think I get it.
And you realize that Charles Schultz was in fact a genius?
Yeah, and he absolutely was, and that was the cool thing. I never once thought, well, this would make a great movie, or this would make a great,
No.
this
Because
type
it
of
didn't.
thing.
Also,
We watched that.
Fun fact.
I will argue that.
Also, fun fact: Charles Schultz from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So, oddly enough, when I heard you ask this question, I had one come up that might seem a little controversial, but it's something I remember very much from my youth. And we've always tried to stay a-religious, so I'm not going to try to get into that. But I think the Tim LaHaye and Jerry Jenkins Left Behind novels
Oh my gosh.
would be an incredible
That's
an
RPG.
tribulation.
Huge series too.
So now, hear me out. Hear me out. Like you and I have some differing ideologies, and
Yes.
that's fine. And we're not going to get into that. But, and I worked at a Barnes and Noble for a lot of years.
Uh-huh.
I hated the Left Behind series.
Sure.
Hated it. But the premise is so cool.
Right?
Yeah.
It is so cool. I would play the heck
You
out
know
of
what?
that.
Yeah.
I've seen that movie. It happens in Avengers Endgame.
Yes, true. Good point.
Well,
so I know it's just
but
full-on
it's-
rapture the entire universe.
That's surprisingly spot on. But and now you look at it from the business side of it. There are 12 main books plus a few others that have happened. Each one their own source book, possibly their own adventure line. As it is, it's post-apocalyptic. Everyone can have a character that they can easily play and relate to. Now, mind you, it could be spoiled, but then again, there's a whole lot of stuff that's going on in other parts of the world that are not in the books.
It's true.
big time RPG opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of intrigue and political gestation of the idea of like a huge chunk of the population just vanishes.
Yeah.
It's the power vacuums.
That
coming
sounds an
into
awful lot
place.
like a
There's-
World of Darkness game.
There are World of Darkness games that are like that.
I was
There
going to
are-
say it sounds like The Stand by Stephen King.
Oh, the stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could work. That can come into that play. But basically, the fact that there are all of a sudden power vacuums that exist in the world, and you know, a huge chunk of your population is just gone. You lose intelligence. You lose a lot of the the people who know how to do things, the skills and the all those kind of things. You drop your manufacturing capabilities. So now you have to deal with the fact that you have a lack.
Yeah.
Because if you lose the guy who knows how to build the machine that fixes, makes your food,
Yeah.
makes the McDonald's flipper, work.
Which facilitates the purchasing system, the mark.
Yeah.
If you lose the copy machine repairman, how are you going to copy that Necronomicon so that you can stop the rise of the vampire horde?
I think that's a Cthulhu skin of that RPG. But
What? No.
Yeah.
Oh, can we call it It's the End of the World as we know it?
I think
And
we're
I
running
feel
RPG.
fine.
But see, you brought this conversation up. I think it was on the way here or something. The idea of RPGs that are more based off of songs, or it was you, somebody, a lot like obviously the real thing. In the
you were talking about the
Why do
real
we
thing.
have, why do we have Mikey in here now?
Because he would throw out words that I don't want on this podcast.
That's true.
Accurate.
I mean, we're
as much
cutting
as
it
he's
close.
yeah, I'm here, so
You're okay.
I've been doing all right.
Yeah.
No, but here's the thing: my game tomorrow morning is fully that.
Okay.
The song, the title of the game, Hell's Coming With Me, is a song,
Yeah.
which I will play for everybody after we're done.
All right.
Yep.
Nice.
Sounds like fun.
But that's
So-
fully my game tomorrow.
You said Left Behind series.
Yes.
How old were you when those books came out? I know you're younger than me. I'm just not sure.
I believe they started coming out middle school-ish.
Oh, wow.
For
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact date where I started reading them then because I couldn't put them down. Like, I
would've
just
been-
kept grabbing each one.
I would have been
page
19 or 20 when it came out. I'm a little older than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A few years older
I
than
was
you.
about the
so-
same age,
Yeah, you and I are
something
about the
like
same age. Because I was working at Barnes & Noble when the first book came out. I
Okay.
remember that.
I didn't read them. They seem too much like Tom Clancy novels. I'm just like,
Those are awful thick for kids.
In
No,
granted, some way they were.
Yeah.
Now there
I
is a
could-
whole Left Behind Kids series.
There it
Oh,
is.
yes, that's right.
I got about
Yes.
halfway
True.
through that.
All
There are
right,
some really good kid series that I like that are like that.
I got another one for you.
Okay.
You ready? Calvin and Hobbes.
I was going to say that one. I'm glad you did.
Oh my
There
god.
are no rules.
I want to
my
play
gosh.
Calvin Ball as an RPG.
Right. I did this at a Fear the Con a couple of years
Yeah.
ago.
I can see that.
I ran a game that was set in the universe of Calvin and Hobbes, and a bunch of like characters from the 80s were coming to kill me as a child. Me as a child. Adam Gottfried as a child. Because I peed on Goofy.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
So, true story. When I was 5 years old, my parents took me to Disney World. And we were staying with my grandparents who lived in Sarasota, Florida,
Uh-huh.
which is a couple of hours away from Orlando. So, we left in the morning because my parents were dirt flipping poor. See? Caught myself.
Yeah.
Dirt flipping poor. And we couldn't afford to stay in a hotel nearby. So, we drove from Sarasota to Orlando. I was 5. And we were almost there. We were in the parking lot. I'm like, I gotta go. Like, flat out told my dad, I gotta pee. And Dad's like, okay, well, we're in the parking lot. As soon as we get inside, like, you can go to the bathroom. But, there's parking and then walking to the tram and then the
Yeah.
tram and da-da-da-da-da. So finally we get in. We get into the gate and we're walking through right up into there's the big Cinderella castle. It's the Magic Kingdom.
Bathrooms immediately to the left.
So,
Sorry.
there's the Magic Kingdom, all that stuff. I'll keep my arm down
Are you
here.
forgetting that you're a boy and the world is your toilet?
That's
The
coming.
world,
Hold on.
Walt Disney World is not your
No,
toilet.
no. Well, so Goofy shows up, and as a kid, Goofy was one of my all-time favorite characters. So the character of Goofy shows up, and my mom's like, "Hey, there's Goofy. Go give him a hug." I'm like, "Mom, I really gotta go." And she's like, "Well, just give him a quick hug, and then you can go to the bathroom." I'm like, "Okay." So I ran up to Goofy, and the character was like, gave me a great big hug. He squeezed.
Oh.
Oh no.
It was like a water balloon.
Cast member
Squeezed
nightmares.
in the wrong place.
I had had nightmares that Mickey Mouse was not going to let me come back to Disney World for legitimate years after that.
Oh.
So the premise of this game was that Mickey Mouse put a hit on me because I peed on Goofy.
Sure.
And
the
so-
best games come from childhood trauma.
Right, well,
This is true. That's a little plus truth.
best games do come from childhood trauma. So Terry Dyer is playing Calvin. He was one of the people hired to kill me. But
Nice.
instead, he turns all Spaceman Spiff,
Oh.
and he saves my life.
Oh my gosh.
Completely off the rails. Like, I had not anticipated that, but Terry just took that character and ran with it.
Wow.
That's adorable.
I forgot about
It
Spaceman
was
Spiff.
such a great story. Terry, if you ever see and or watch it, listen to this, that was a wonderful moment and one of the things I'll always remember about you. But anyway, Calvin and Hobbes.
That's amazing.
That's really good.
Do we need to pause?
No, we're good. I'm just making sure things are going.
The
Yes, I do.
sound engineer is playing
Yeah.
with the sound.
That's what I do.
That's awesome.
So I can't say that I have something way crazy unique, but man, I love playing. I would run games for new players when I was teaching friends how to play D&D style things. But I would play Lord of the Rings because it was so. I know it sounds so cheesy and whatnot.
Well, and RPGs
but
exist
in that
for that,
world.
but yeah.
But no, just playing straight D&D, throw in Lord of the Rings elements, and a lot of it, everything that I had back then, I didn't have books. I didn't own anything. So I had pages upon pages of notes of items. Here's a bunch of items that I've created. But here's the D numbers for them and all those kind of things. Here's your health potion stats. Here's how much it costs. So I had basically tables full of paperwork notes, but I had no books.
Yeah.
So I would run basically whatever. I'd come up with a story inside the world of Lord of the Rings, and it wouldn't be obviously of the ring and all those kind of things, but it would be in the world.
Sure.
Because I read that book probably, 10 times by the time I was 15. So that was my one of my jams. Of course, I would spend a lot of time reading it. Now I read other books and stuff.
Sure.
There's a few other books, but I never considered them RPG materials because a lot of them were single player.
Mm-hmm.
There were one hero with this, he found the ash staff and it's
But
got
you really
magic
truly get an
powers.
ensemble feel
Right.
from Lord of the Rings.
So you'd get that. You could get the ensemble feel. You can get the solo or three party because the world was so immersive and had so much places to play in, and people knew it. So you could easily jump them into the world when you start talking about areas, and they can imagine it immediately. And that was the easiest way for me to get people to join games. So if you're talking kids books,
Yeah.
or things that I've read as a kid and that I enjoyed,
Well,
that's number one.
I was
Yeah,
eight
you know,
when
I would
read
always-
Lord of the Rings, so I feel you.
Well, yeah, no, I'm sure we all have been in the years, but
It's funny you say that. My first book was Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
It was the movie adaptation,
Mhm.
that giant book. But my dad would read one page, and then I would read another page. And that's how he taught me how to read. Otherwise, it was comic books and Garfield comics and like the
Sure.
Archie comics. But that's what he'd sit me on his lap. Okay, I'm gonna read this page. You're gonna read this page, and help me through the words. So I totally understand. Like I
Yeah.
want to be immersed in that world. And then they did. They made games where you
Yeah.
can do that.
Right, there's a MERP system and all those kind of things. I've tried to play those games, but I don't think that they really capture the essence, in my opinion, of what I was going for.
Check out the
That's
One
kinda
Ring.
cool.
The One Ring I've heard is pretty good.
Yeah.
I haven't played that one.
I'll
But
point this out. D&D is fully just a reskin of Lord of the Rings.
It's-
and it's,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
because Lord of the Rings was the base of fantasy mythology for that generation.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
and-
that's is what it is. They
My-
tried to make the battles of the five armies in tabletop form, so they created.
That's what
D&D.
chainmail was.
That's what
Chainmail
was a big thing of the Battle of the Five Armies and those kind of battles. They're trying to recreate those, and then they went, we could get a story behind these generals that
And you
survived.
get to be that
several
one
battles.
guy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, these generals that have survived 6 or 7, campaigns and combats. Now that guy has a story.
Yeah.
He's been through this. He's been through that. Those anyways. But I enjoyed creating stories in that realm because I knew it well enough that I could imagine every bit of the world and the things to play off of. I know it wasn't a homebrew, but it felt like homebrew to me.
Sure.
That was home for my
It was a homebrew.
Yeah, and I know,
totally
the rules and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
were homebrew, but I mean the world wasn't homebrewed.
That's fair.
Per se, but that was where my headspace could take, and I loved the hell out of that. But if I want to go for an IP that I currently like, that I would go for, I would still go back and play some more Firefly. I love that universe. I've run some games in that, and such a good team.
I haven't played the new one.
Scratch the rules, because the rules are decent. They're not bad rules, but you have to kind of play them loose.
Well, and with sci-fi is really getting with D&D bringing out is Spelljammer? Is that what their sci-fi universe
that's
is?
been around for a while. But
they're re-releasing it.
That was in the 5e.
Yeah, that was a TSR IP back in the day when
Yeah.
they're putting out a new campaign setting every year or whatever.
Right, but they're even D&D acknowledges that sci-fi is an area that people want to explore.
For sure.
So, but and obviously we've talked about Pathfinder a lot on here, and Starfinder being options out there, and there's tons of course RPG options out there. But I think it's interesting that sci-fi is kind of bringing itself forward again, because there's been so much drive in the fantasy realm with D&D, Pathfinder, and all these different ones. It's nice to see more sci-fi. So yeah, Firefly.
And we're not hurting for sci-fi content on TV and in the media right now with all the Star Trek returns, all the
RPG.
Orville. The Orville is I will stand by this every day of the week. The Orville is the best Star Trek show they have put out in decades.
Until I saw Strange New Worlds, I would have agreed with you.
No, so I haven't watched Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
But the first season of Orville, as the first half of it was him trying to sell the idea of the Seth MacFarlane show. Then he turned it around and he hit the heartstrings.
Yeah.
The first episode of this new season just killed me.
Yeah,
Okay, so
anyways,
I'm
sorry.
going to throw a hot take out there real quick though.
Okay.
The greatest sci-fi, I'm going to look right down the pipe here as we do it.
Oh, man.
The greatest sci-fi RPG system that exists to date is Star Wars Saga Edition. I will take no question.
Star Wars Saga, is that one of the older ones?
That came out right. That was
I appreciate that.
good.
Imagine D&D 3rd edition for Star Wars.
I've never played D&D.
Okay.
Have you
Never played
ever
D&D.
played Spelljammer?
The original? Yes.
Exactly.
No, don't get me wrong.
We'll have
I
to
love
solve
the
that.
setting of
Right.
Spelljammer. I'm speaking system
you and I-
specific.
Yeah, the D20 based Saga edition of Star Wars is very well written.
Really
very
well done. It stuck really well with the themes of Star Wars. Like they acknowledged that Star Wars is not sci-fi. It is in fact a space
Space fantasy, right.
We have wizards with space with laser swords. It's a thing.
Space wizards with laser swords.
Right.
I have two
Cool.
books. This is going to sound really weird. When I used to think that the very first graphic novel I ever read was Watchmen. And I didn't read it until I found out that the movie was coming out. And when I saw the trailer for the movie, I'm like, I have to find out what this thing is. So I went ahead and I bought the trade paperback and read through it. And oh my God, was it amazing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know this, but to this day, that rabbit trail, that graphic novel is the only graphic novel that Time Magazine put on its list of the 100 best novels of the English language.
Wow.
Because it was
It was
amazing.
from 1950 on or something.
Right.
Yeah, no, because it was amazing. Like
It wasn't. Yeah, there are some really good graphic novels that have come out that I could see fitting into that category, but that one was really, really good.
I was wrong.
that was not your
Because
first.
that was not my first graphic novel.
Turns out it was Peanuts.
When I was, that was a comic strip that they put in anthologies.
Yeah.
When I was in I remember this very distinctly. When I was in first grade, for Christmas, my parents got me a graphic novel. It was a small one. It was called King Smurf. I don't know if you've ever seen this or if you've ever heard of it. It was the story of the Smurfs in the Smurf village. Papa Smurf goes on a trip to find something. I don't remember what.
The MacGuffin.
And not even part. It didn't matter. He just left.
It's just,
And then the
Go find
Smurfs,
Mama Smurf.
the Smurfs decide, well, Papa Smurf is normally the one in charge. Who's going to be in charge?
Brainy thinks it's going to be him.
And somebody, I can't remember which Smurf it is, but somebody takes it upon himself to crown himself king.
That seems about right.
Creates an army, guards, and the whole thing. And it ends up being like a civil war amongst the Smurfs. Now, I remember reading this and thinking to myself, this would be a great NBC miniseries. fully, absolutely humorless, played completely straight, but animated Smurfs.
Just beating each other up. Yeah.
Yes, I have to censor myself here, but like as a kid, I'm reading this, I'm thinking this would be so amazing, and I think that storyline, that specific storyline of King Smurf, would do great as an RPG.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of like Watership Down. It was a story about rabbits. Oh, it's a story about rabbits. Yeah, it's a story about rabbits who kill each other.
Super dark.
Smurfs going dark. Honestly, I thought that was like, wow. As a kid, I thought a great movie. I hadn't been exposed to RPGs at that point. But when I first started thinking about this, there was one book that came in mind. King Smurf was the second one. The number one book that is hands down my favorite book it's for kids, but you can't really appreciate it unless you're an adult. And it's not a well-known book. It's called The War Between the Pitiful Teachers and the Splendid Kids. It's a novel, okay? Now, this was written in the early 80s. The stuff that takes place in this novel would not fly today. It's centered on this school called Scratchland School, where all the kids who have been kicked out of other schools are sent.
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes sense, apparently, for some reason. And there's this kid named Skinny Malinky, who decides he's had enough of teachers making fun of him, putting him down, and making him feel bad for acting like a kid, right? For just acting up and doing things that kids do when they're not well behaved.
Yep.
So he gathers a bunch of his friends, and they declare war on the teachers at Scratchland School. And they set up camps in the field outside the school, like tents and everything else like that. And they pull pranks on them, but the world is filled with a load of amazing characters. There's Big Alice, who's a kid, a large young lady who was raised by hyenas. There's Mr. Snakadaka, who is the English teacher. That's the silliest name in the entire book, other than Mr. Bulltoad, who is the gym teacher.
I mean, that tracks, though.
And what ultimately happens is that I forgot about this. The school gets overtaken by a conglomerate of educators run by a man named Mr. Foreclosure, who is a red ant. Mr. Foreclosure is an ant. He's a sentient ant. Okay? Like
the insect?
His number one man brings out
your uncle's wife.
There's a scene where his number one man brings out a briefcase, opens it up. Inside the briefcase is a tiny mansion. And out the door walks an ant. That's the guy. Okay, and he's in charge of the entire thing. And so he decides to call the kids bluff and says, okay, you know what? You want a war? We're going to build a stadium. We're going to have a skirmish. Whoever wins this wins the war. And the teachers have a weapon on their side called the status quo solidifier. They split the peanut butter atom. They split the peanut butter atom and found out that there is a way that they could turn kids into perfect young people. Capital letter P, capital P, Y, P.
Sure.
Perfect young people. These are the kids that, the first question that they ask is, what can I do for extra credit?
So they put them on a pip?
Yeah, so they decide we have this weapon. We're going to declare war on the children. And if you lose, you all have to be subject to this, and we make you perfect young people. And life becomes easy for teachers. Like I said, would never be made today.
Oh, but it could be, because that is kind of the story of Captain Underpants.
Yeah, well, maybe.
True.
But it's seriously it gets a little dark. There's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of humor in it, but I would suggest if you can find a copy of it, read it. It is insanely well put together. You have to suspend your disbelief at some point because it's a kid's novel. But the funny thing is, a few years ago, I researched the novel and I researched the author. And I found out that the author wrote a sequel a couple years later called Skinny Malinky and the War for Kidness, which came out in the 80s or something like that. And I never knew he had written a sequel. And
so the first one was written in the 70s?
No, the first one came out in the early 80s, 1980, 1981, something like that. Okay. So I put up a message on his website saying, hey, I just wanted to tell you I love this book. It's my favorite book as a child, from childhood. I still have a copy of it. the first page still comes out on its own. I have to put it back in and everything else. And he responded and said, give me your address. I'm going to send you the sequel. And so he sent me the sequel in a hardback.
Nice.
With an inscription on there and a personalized note. He was up there in age, probably 70s or 80s by the time this happened. I'm glad you enjoy my book. Please, accept this gift. It also gave me an excuse to use my favorite pen, Stanley.
That story reminded me now of the one that I'm changing my answer.
Okay.
The Phantom Tollbooth.
Well,
I just wrote that down.
Wow.
Literally, just wrote that down.
Just taking all of Lance's answers. Is what we're doing.
Would be amazing.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
The doldrums alone.
Oh my goodness.
I've heard so much about them, but I've never read it. I know
It
what the
is
story is
such
about,
a
but I've
good
never read
book.
it. Yeah.
It's
Here's-
a lot of
here's the thing.
fun humor.
It is.
But
If you read it
in a world.
now, you're going to go, well, this is very derivative of other things. But you have to realize when it came out, nobody else had done what the Phantom Tollbooth had
Yes.
done.
This is when he was doing that, Discworld
Never read it.
never existed. That kind
Yeah.
of thing. Like Discworld came from probably reading
I mean,
things
knowing
like the
Terry
Phantom
Pratchett, it probably
Tollbooth.
did.
As well as your Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and all these things came post. Such an amazing work of art.
Wow.
As a children's novel, was phenomenal. So I could say that would be an amazing one to run an RPG in, and you'd have to sit down and think through that one pretty heavily before you do it. But it would be fantastic. It would be fantastic.
I have another idea, but
Josh
I'm
might-
not going to take Lance's.
No. It's perfectly fine. As you were speaking, I kept thinking that sounds a little bit like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Meets Phantom. Well, not
Oh,
the Captain
Captain
Underpants
Underpants.
thing, right? And then when I started thinking Lord of the Flies, for some reason that led me to Clan of the Cave Bear. So if you wanted to do a game that is just set in prehistory, where learning is outlawed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So your intelligence score, if it's up there, you're on the run. Yes. They just want you to be a harvester, a gatherer, a hunter, or
If you're a wizard, they fully just stone you to death.
yes, right. So kind of like Savage Worlds.
Yeah, a little
right?
bit.
But
See,
only Stone Age.
Right.
So that would
Yeah.
be one.
Stone Age Savage Worlds would be fun. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, Phantom Tollbooth though, I wrote that down as that would be so awesome, and that led me to, and I didn't read this until I was in 6th grade, so forgive me. It's that genre, but the Indian in the Cupboard
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh,
and the Castle in the Attic.
Yeah.
Have you read those?
It would work well
Okay.
if you were the toys.
That's what Castle in the Attic is.
Okay,
Indian in the
yeah.
Cupboard is the toys come to life in the
Right.
world of the humans, but Castle in the Attic, the
Toy
boy
kid.
goes into the castle with the toy knight,
That's cool.
and now he's in a fantasy world.
Right.
See, with Indian in the Cupboard, if you were to reskin that as an RPG, you'd almost have to have two characters, where one you're like the kids,
Mhm.
and one you're the toy, and you kind of piggyback the story off of each other as events
And
happen.
I pictured Castle in the Attic being you play yourself in the fantasy
but
world.
you're now this.
So that reminds me of a book, and I do not remember the name of it. But there is a book out there there's a couple books out there, obviously, where you get your college age kids play D&D, they transport themselves to the world.
Stranger
There's
Things.
That's the name of the series.
There's another one though that I read, and I don't
Game
remember
of
what this one
Thrones.
is. Where you turn, where the college age kid transports into the magical world, but in the process, he doesn't become himself in the magical world. He becomes shoved into the body of a dragon. And so he becomes the dragon and doesn't know how, obviously has to deal with that factor and living as a dragon and all those kind of things. It's a really great storyline. I can't remember what the name of the book is for the life of me. But it
Voyage
was-
to the Dawn Treader.
Voyage to the Dawn Treader.
No, not Voyage to the Dawn Treader. No,
I know
no.
that. I know
Right,
what
Yes,
you're
but
talking about,
this was he
The Narnia
wanted to
series.
actually live and
Right.
become the dragon and live at and
Narnia
figure
would
out
be great.
how to fly
Aragon.
and all those kind of. What?
Aragon.
Aragon isn't
It's not Aragon, but yes, it's that kind of. But it's an interesting concept of actually doing
Keep
that.
naming things
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
speak.
Yeah.
Well, I just okay. So going
before
off,
Is it how to train your dragon?
going off of your
The
Lord of
Dragonlance.
the Rings premise.
That's another good one.
Which, by the way, I wasn't laughing at you.
No,
because
no,
of
no,
Lord
I
of the
get
Rings.
that.
I legitimately thought you were going to say that Friends, the show, would
Oh.
have made a good RPG, and I'm like, I don't think so, actually.
No,
I really don't.
That would make a decent Fiasco game.
No.
But that's about it.
And maybe not be the show Friends, but a sitcom
As a show.
RPG?
Within the RPG.
Or something like that.
With something like Fiasco or something like that might work.
Maybe not. Yes, Fiasco
Yeah.
I think's got its own system in it, but when you say Friends is an RPG, it's like no. But Seinfeld is an RPG.
Oh my God.
Maybe not. But when you combine those elements, where it is
Golden
literally
Years.
the golden these sitcom
So you add
RPGs.
Friends, you add
Yes.
Seinfeld, and you add Sex and the City, and it's
All-
just the New York RPG.
Really, you're just describing most of my life. So
Yes.
no, what I was going to get at though, before I made that comment, I mean, let's be honest here. Like Chronicles of Narnia would make a great RPG.
Yep.
Wizard
Yeah,
Wizard
could
of
be.
Oz.
I'm honestly really shocked that Narnia hasn't been made into
That
So-
is because the C.S. Lewis estate will not allow it to be.
Well,
okay.
Part of it's that I can see that as being a decent RPG system, a world to play in. The challenge is that it has very specific directions that it goes, that it wouldn't, you would have to play, because they don't really get into the detail of the lives, everyday lives of the characters.
Closest
These
you get
humans
is the
show
horse.
up and that's the story.
Closest you get is the horse and his boy.
The Horse and His Boy creates the world in a bigger depth, but that's it. That's really all you get.
I want to go in a completely different direction and say, and it's a little controversial these days, but not when we were growing up, the world of Dr. Seuss.
Oh,
You stole my idea.
gosh.
That's
Yeah, I
right.
did one!
Yes.
I mean, you had a comment at this
Absolutely.
You did. I'm totally fine with it. 'Cause
Now-
that's why I didn't let it. I didn't want to.
Granted, that's a con game. 100% a con game. I don't think I could run that for a
I don't know.
season.
I don't know.
That could be a whole
I will give
campaign.
I will give you bonus dice. I will give you advantage on your rolls if you can speak in verse.
True.
That's just
Yes.
every part I've ever
But
played.
again, that's what I would be good with. I would be okay with that being a con game. I don't know that I would enjoy playing that one as a campaign for too long.
Wacky
More than maybe
yeah.
3 or 4 sessions, maybe 6 sessions at most.
But we know that there's at least one person playing, running No Thank You Evil here for
Yes.
some kids,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
right? A Dr. Seuss RPG
No Thank
as
You
a
Evil.
kids
Would be
RPG.
a great campaign. Yeah.
it could be
Yeah.
decent. Yeah, it could be a really good, decent campaign if you throw it in the right light for short stints or split up over time.
That could be a good
Now-
school teacher game. Like the
Oh, yeah.
gaming club at some elementary school plays the doctor. Maybe elementary school these days wouldn't do it, but could be a good RPG to teach kids how to play RPGs in a world that they already know.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree that would be a fun one to play with and to goof off with for a while. But it would be, like I said, that'd be a great con game, short bits,
I don't
run for a
know
while.
if you've ever seen the Dr. Seussical.
Seussical the musical.
They went.
Yeah.
They
That would
took
be-
they took that ball and ran.
They did.
No, I agree.
Sure.
Okay, have you been to Universal Studios in Orlando yet?
Yes.
Is anybody here? Okay,
Yes.
have you been to Seuss Landing over
Yeah,
there?
no, I get it.
So the fact that a group of designers were able to not only bring that world to life and make it repeatable, like I
Yeah,
have
right.
no problem taking my kids back there again.
No, yeah.
Was part like this visual, being able to imagine that.
There are worlds
such a
within
great way.
worlds inside of his universe, and breaking that down. I mean, simply put, the Grinch
Yes.
is this big.
Okay.
Do you think about it? Where was he? Where did he live?
Outside of Whoville.
Where's the Who's?
Where-
On the
wherever
dust
Horton heard
speck. In Horton, here's a Who.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
So he is this big. And you have that much of a world to work with. And there's so much more that you could play with there.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I agree. I've read probably every Seuss book that there is, and more than once.
Yeah.
But
And some of them are educational, but you can still pull like the characters.
the world, just take out the
Yeah.
whole story, pull the world.
Maybe not the alphabet
It
book.
is phenomenally built world.
Hop on pop. That would.
I mean, the
See?
Hop on Pop is built on
Yeah.
the world out. Is it built on the world inside the Whoville world or outside?
Right.
You know, that's something you can play with.
Great perspective. That's a fantastic perspective.
So there's a lot that you can play with that world. I absolutely agree. I think I would enjoy playing with it a little bit, but I think that the characters.
I think if you start
The world
playing the
doesn't
game
have
with
a
your
lot of-
kids,
yeah.
you're never going to want to stop.
Oh, sure. I think I can play with my kids. Absolutely. But as an adult game, it might run out of there's world to play with, but the depth of the world isn't super strong. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of culture build or any sort of world building.
Pretty deep.
You'd have to go. It goes deep,
An
but
entire book.
very shallow depth. It's wide.
Or maybe
shallow.
each book is its own campaign or its own
And it may be,
module.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the way I see it. Every world that you build is just the start. When you dip your toe into it, maybe you find out that the world you play in gets receives more depth from the input of the players rather than the lore that you write or the place where you start.
So what the camera is now picking up, as I'm just kind of staring blankly off in the middle distance, is me playing "Are You My Mother" as an RPG in the back of my head.
Is your mama a llama?
Like I'm fully just
Giant brain.
right, just this.
Which is in and of itself.
You're not my mom. You're a
Right?
Smurf.
My mother's a mom.
I want to see an RPG that takes place on Mulberry Street.
Right.
Sure. Cat in the Hat. Dude.
Heck yeah.
Cat in the Hat could be a whole deal.
That's your
with
antagonist.
So hold on.
He's an
He's
antagonist,
either the
absolutely.
antagonist or he's the GM.
or he's a combination of both.
That hit.
Just because he's an antagonist doesn't mean he has to be evil.
That's true.
He can just be a Loki.
He's an anarchist.
He's totally
Well,
Loki.
I mean, I have young kids, so I watch The Cat in the Hat, knows all about that. He is very definitely the pushes the kids in the direction of open your mind and think about this from a different perspective. Now, in the books, it's very much he just gets them in trouble and they have to find their way out of it. But in those stories, he's we're having this argument. Well, let's take you to a world where they have arguments about things like that. And
They're building more on the concepts that he originally built on. Because Cat in the Hat originally was they were all bored. They were sitting in a house. Have fun. Stretch what you want, what you
But,
expect
you know,
to do. You know what you
before
get away
Marvel.
with. But of course, he had no limits.
All right, now hear me out.
He was
Hear
your
me out.
Loki character.
Hear me
He
out.
just no limits. If
Hear
he,
me
but stretching them.
The Cat in the Hat is Q from Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And Q is also Loki.
Right.
He's the chaotic character.
Wow.
The chaotic character.
That's it. Tom Hiddleston is the next guy.
I'm here for no. I'd watch the heck out of that. Absolutely. Sideways stories from Wayside School.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See,
That's
this-
post your time probably.
It's
No. That was 80s.
my brain just went. No, he's the right. He's the right. It just wasn't super popular.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it was very popular in my school, but I realized after I grew up that it was like just my school.
Yeah.
Dude.
Well, I had heard of it, but I don't remember reading it.
Yeah.
It's Louis Sacker, which wrote a ton of kids' books. He did like Holes. He did, and now I'm blanking on literally everything he ever wrote. But
There's a bunch of
ton.
them, yeah.
But basically, Sideways Stories from Wayside School is this kind of like the book you were mentioning. This wacky sort of like the school, which it was an elementary school, and instead of being built flat on the ground like so many elementary schools are, it was built straight up and down. And every kid is
And
it's
stuff
very
would take
wacky.
place on the side. There was like he had an artist in there too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very artistic. Yeah, and like I'm remembering this now. Like there would be stuff would literally take place on the side
on
of
the
the
side of the
building.
building. Yep. They were teaching lessons about like it was a comedy book, and they were teaching lessons at one point about gravity, and so they were like throwing pencils and pieces of paper out of a thing, and then the play yard teacher, the schoolyard teacher would brought up this computer, and to the 30th floor, which is the very top floor, and he hands it to the teacher, and the teacher's like, "Oh, thank you so much. This will help. You know, this computer is going to help us learn about gravity a whole lot." And she chucks it out the window.
It wasn't my favorite book, but Animorphs.
That was after my time.
That was after your time, I know.
Yeah.
Sure. But the whole idea of being
No,
able
it's
to
cool.
morph into creatures, things
Yeah,
like
well,
that, kind of
it's
interesting.
the whole lycanthrope idea.
So the
Yeah.
island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
Creepy, but yes.
So another thing that we were discussing, I wasn't thinking about this as a topic for the discussion, but we were talking about it in the car yesterday or today. But you were talking about the role playing game, The Real Thing, which was based on the Faith No More album, The Real Thing, and the designer got permission from the band to put that together. And I had the idea at some point, what would make a good song. I like short RPGs. the stuff I design is almost exclusively one-shot stuff. And I had this idea a long time ago to create a minimalist RPG, like a 1 or 2 page RPG based on the Oingo Boingo song "Dead Man's Party." And I'm thinking, okay, what other songs?
I mean, that almost writes itself.
It kind of does.
I mean, it's in a movie that they made themselves.
Yeah.
I don't know if that song's in a movie. It's in another movie. It's in some movie.
Well, I'm just.
I don't know if it was.
No,
in
Boingo
the Forbidden
Boingo
Zone.
made a movie.
No, I know, the Forbidden Zone.
Yes.
I don't know that song is in it.
So we're talking about other songs that might make good RPGs.
Yeah, other songs, just single songs
sure.
that might make a good one-shot RPG. Something
Don't
like that.
Threaten Me with a Good Time by Panic at the Disco.
Okay,
Yeah.
talk to me.
Well, it's the whole thing is the whole thing, and it's a relatively it's a fictionalized true story from Brendan Urie's own experience,
Okay.
but basically it's a whole bunch of like Beverly Hills like aggressive usage of illicit substances, what have you. But the whole thing is basically like constantly one-upping yourself with a good time. So basically, it's don't threaten me with a good time.
Okay.
And like at one point, there's a tentacle monster. Like it's
Oh, I'm in.
yeah, and it's not the bad thing that you get with tentacle monsters. It's not.
I don't care.
It's a family podcast. I'm trying not to say the word.
Yeah.
But it, yeah,
Any Weird Al song?
Oh,
Yeah,
Get your trail to hell.
Monster Paradise?
oh, the night Santa went crazy.
Yeah, everyone crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have a lot of those.
If I was going to do an RPG on a Weird Al song, it would be on one of his originals.
The Phantom Menace. Oh
Yes.
wait,
Yeah.
Well, that's already printed story,
I
though.
knew that was.
Go, Josh, because I'm not going to steal yours at all.
But that's me.
that is most likely true. I have either Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles or the entire Sgt. Pepper's album.
Oh, wow.
Well, hold on. Let's be fair. The entire Sgt. Pepper album is basically just one big long song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is
So-
almost an
and
RPG in
a
itself.
movie.
Yeah.
And a movie.
It's meta because
The
the,
Wall,
album
yeah.
is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is the album. It's
Right.
their own. The song is
That
the
was when
same.
John
as the
Lennon and
album.
Paul McCartney were in their heavy drug use days.
Yeah, that was a great album though.
It was absolutely.
So I had a thought.
That's
What if you
interesting.
had a Back to the Future style game set to We Didn't Start the Fire?
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Nope, that's
Yeah.
playing in my head now. That's happening.
Yeah. Zach just decided he's switching games.
No, I'm not. I'm not switching games.
Time traveling games of any kind can be really, really fun if they're played right.
See, the
Yeah.
be- the
Throw in
best
a
part-
song, boom.
Best part of that is all you got to do is like whatever time frame you go in, you just look at the liner notes of the album because it has the decade that everything happens in. So you just that's the decade. This is what we're focusing on. And it goes from 49 to 85.
Mhm.
I was a big Billy Joel fan, like a big Billy Joel fan.
We didn't start the fire. It's
I was going
Was there
somewhere.
more to that sentence?
Nope, that was it.
No, that was it. I was just well, I was so somebody did.
He was stating a fact.
It's on TikTok. Somebody did an updated.
A lot of people have done that.
Well, they have, but somebody did it just for 2020.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The COVID coronavirus
Wow.
thing. I think I even wrote a song similar to this.
It was pretty intense.
This was a strange one for me, but it was I was a fan of his music. I think it was middle of high school. Was Eagle Eye Cherry? Remember?
Yeah.
Particularly the "Save Tonight."
Yeah.
That song, for one, is a great love song. But the story that's going on there,
It's part
oh,
of the
you
story.
you could tell a heck of a story there. It's just a lot. That whole album was very themed, but that one in particular was like, there's a lot going on in that song.
One of my favorite bands is this really obscure band called Che Guevara. They took the name from the name of Marc Chagall, the artist, and Che Guevara, and they were a bunch of Christian artists that were really, really tired of dealing with the Christian music industry. And these are guys who were session players, and they said, let's do a one-off band. They got signed to MCA. They got a song featured in the movie Pump Up the Volume. I mean, these guys, they got a 3.5-star review in Rolling Stone. They have a song on their album, the only album they ever put together, called Escher's World. And
Never heard of the band, but I feel like I've heard that song.
oh, it's phenomenal. It's a great alternative rock album from like '91. But Escher's World, the chorus, ups, down, down is out, out is in, stairways, circle back to where you've been, time falls, water crawls, are you listening? and there's all sorts of imagery in that. I'm just like, you could really run with an Escher, Salvador Dali type imagery in a world like that, and really make the whole what's the word, the physics of everything just act in completely different ways, build mechanics that force people to think in a different manner.
Right, so the song takes place in Wonderland.
Kinda, yeah.
I don't know about that. I'm not thinking Wonderland. That's not me. But
I literally anything by Nightwish.
Mm.
They're a symphonic operatic metal band.
Yeah, power metal.
From Sweden.
Yep.
And
Their stuff is great.
they're really good. I actually went and saw them last month. They're so good live.
Wow.
Yes.
So I was thinking about your Escher thing there. I want to see. I would love to see the mechanics of trying to put together like an Escher-like physics world. Because that would be interesting. It's trying to play a game where you have to describe that in a clear enough way that everyone at the table gets it. That would be a challenging GM thing. I was trying to think of like
I would super need visual references.
exactly.
Like, I would need.
But how
some
can
kind
you
of
visualize
a whiteboard?
Escher?
I need like a whiteboard or something.
Even
like
a
that.
whiteboard
All right,
would
you're
work.
coming through here, but you're coming out over here. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Need
I
a
went through there
3D
before, and I came out over there. Yeah, I
I
don't
need a
care.
3D CAD program that could work in fourth dimension.
Exactly.
Um,
Are we going long?
No, we were about to wrap up, and I was writing down a fact because I actually got one.
Did you establish one?
I did. Did you as well? Okay, so we're gonna have two of them.
all right.
It's good to know.
All right, let's do
Because
it.
I don't remember the one that Don did last time. So, anyways,
I mean, the fact,
It's been a
Hi,
minute.
Don.
the fact that I
just did it
established
2
was-
weeks ago.
the fact that I established is that we all have names.
3. We apparently have all names.
But only
But
Adam
I'm
can tell
back,
us what they
baby.
are.
Oh wait.
But before we get too far down the road, number one, thank you, Zach, for the ideas. Good ideas. I was really surprised that our book, went on 45 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm not. I mean,
Okay.
the wealth of information that was available to us is because we all grew up in slightly different times. I mean,
Sure.
we all grew up in
Yes.
slightly different times. We all grew up in fairly different areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Different
we all have
backgrounds,
very
everything.
different experience, which is why this podcast was a good one. So
Yep.
good job.
Thank you. The music one, I feel like we could probably keep going.
Oh,
but
yeah.
That's a whole other
I do
episode.
try to hit within an hour, so we're
Yeah.
going to be close to that. So I will do what the Established Ducks does all the time and shamelessly plug. Zach, where can they find you?
You can find me at buymeacoffee.com/backburnergames. I am a game designer. Most of the stuff that I've designed is, again, guaranteed for one-shot play.
That's right.
That's
or,
where I-
or your money back.
or your-
Recommended.
Probably.
Your money won't be back. I will thank you for your money. But I have different things you can buy piecemeal in there. You can become a member, and there's some perks with that. You can even commission your own personalized RPG from me. All the details are on that. buymeacoffee.com/backburnergames.
That is dangerous information for me to know, Zach.
I know. I'm also
Right?
Zach W. Lorton on Facebook if you still use Facebook.
If you Facebook.
Right. But yeah, that's where people can find me, and I love talking with people about gaming, even if it's not something I get to do all that much. I love talking about it.
Sure. Caleb, where do they find you?
All over the place. Fear the Boot. I'm occasionally a guest member still, whenever they have need, and I'm in St. Louis now. Woohoo! Most of a lot of the factors know me from previous.
Just start
stuff,
walking
so-
down the street in St. Louis and you'll bump into him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
He did
Caleb.
say he's
Here
all
we go.
over the place. So.
Yeah.
Adam, where do they find you?
Oh, Christ.
Can they find you? Should they find
They
you?
can, in point of fact. So all of my socials that are going to pertain to this are going to be the blind GM of some variety. So Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
His TikTok questions of the day are very good.
Thank you. I do my best. TikTok, I'm really into TikTok these days. I also stream. Twitch.tv/almightyursus. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and then I do some actual play games on stream. Normally they're every other weekend, but because it's summer and all of my friends have lives and jobs and kids and everything like that, we can't seem to nail down a date. But we do that stuff, and so yeah, come check it out.
And you'll hear our feeds, of course, on the back end with the Established Facts. So,
Where can they find you, Josh?
well, they can find me primarily at theestablishedfacts.com and on Facebook, as we mentioned at the end. I don't have anything special other than that. The Established Facts and the Stable are what I do, if you care.
You can't find me. I'm behind the camera.
He's right here.
He's not even here right now. This
isn't him.
This is a holographic projection. Lance is actually behind the camera right now as we speak.
Our technology has really gone up
Next
another
level.
level.
His post-production work is on.
It's
Right.
great.
We've actually been talking to a tennis ball on a stick this entire time.
Which I'll be giving back to my dog eventually.
Is this still slobbery?
With that said, if you want to know what the Established Facts for episode 228 live from PopCon was, go check out episode 228. For episode 229, first, what did you say?
Oh, the established fact that we established is we have names.
We have names.
We have names.
So Established Facts, we have names. Lance,
The Cat in the Hat is your dungeon master.
and because the Cat in the Hat is your dungeon master, I figured I would write a fact in verse. Whatever you read or whatever you see, your favorite book may be just what you need. Open your mind and be ready to see. Your favorite book may be the next great RPG.
That's great.
Oh!
Very nice.
You get advantage in your first roll tomorrow.
Yes! Thank you for joining us on episode 229. And
Live from Fear the Con.
live from Fear the Con 2022. And as Don would say, we will check you later.
See ya.
Bye.